Y'all some brave fools coming back for third round of the madness. The Hatter has the night off, so I'll be taking over narration duties. I'll be your mind reader incarnate, guiding your descent into lunacy down the rabbit hole. May I direct your attention to the link in the description if you care to download the design Bible for Alice Asylum, if you care to follow along. We will be resuming our deep dive into the game plot on page 183 of the Bible, which is page 92 of the PDF spread. Gather around the digital campfire, children. We're halfway through the month of April and nearly halfway through Alice Asylum. The Wonderland awaits. Cheshire Cat. New character encountered. Alice and the Cheshire Cat assess one another in an exchange laden with curiosity and double-edged words. The two share an unspoken bond and a past shrouded in mystery and conflict. New questions and answers spiral as the two address one another. Familiarity is certainly no clarity. No memories of our adventures together, Alice? You've sadly gleamed over the best parts, or perhaps this time, I'm not speaking to the best parts of you. Our adventures? My adventure started at that horrible circus. Cheshire Cat. Unlikely. Unlikely. An adventure is an expedition willingly undertaken. Your journey is more of a, shall we say, trial by fire. It began long ago. How many times you've walked this path, even I cannot say. Alice, I've no time for your games, cat. Either help me get to Hatter or kindly vanish back to wherever hovel you came from. Cheshire. Oh, Alice. We've danced this dance before. His smile widens. The cat's eyes focus on the tiny rabbit by Alice's side. Cheshire Cat. Feel free to call for me if you need more than a... The tiny rabbit hides behind Alice's leg. He trembles. Cheshire continues. Quiet approach. We have history here, Alice. Learn what you can, trust only your instincts, and you may yet survive. Alice. My survival will depend on more than riddles and hairballs, thank you. Cheshire Cat. Pointed words. I'll allow that one. There's hope for you yet. If it's my knowledge you seek, words with teeth will prove more useful than those unable to speak. With a lash of his tail, Rabbit flinches as the Cheshire Cat fades away. His grin is the last part to leave. What follows is an introduction to Cheshire Cat as an in-game guide. He's similar in functionality to the rabbit, except that he can be summoned at will and is able to provide directional information, background lore, and hints. His knowledge is usually structured as a double-edged blade towards Alice, either in his confronting tone, riddled language, or sometimes he simply won't care. Typically, once summoned, the Cheshire Cat will appear in a set place in the environment. Alice and the Cheshire Cat will share a situational dialogue exchange, and then he will disappear, ready to be summoned once again if required. Cheshire Cat. Words with teeth. A guide can show you the way, if he chooses to. When summoned, Alice and Cheshire Cat will address one another in context to the surrounding environment or position in-game. Hints, hidden dialogue exchanges, and background world lore, or just straight-up sass, all are possibilities with the Cheshire Cat. Some examples of encounters that can potentially take place within the Hatter's domain are 1. Cheshire Cat is summoned and appears. Cheshire Cat. We are on the outskirts of Hatter's domain, or what is left of it after an experiment gone wrong. Then again, an experiment gone wrong can still yield usable results, so what's your excuses? Alice to the rabbit. I wonder if he'd make it a nice rug. If he'd make a nice rug. Cheshire Cat disappears. 2. Cheshire Cat is summoned and appears. Alice. I'm sure I'm unsure of the way forward. Where do I go from here, Cat? Cheshire Cat. Oh, it's quite simple, really. I know the way, but I do enjoy watching your little gears turn as you try to figure it out yourself. Alice. Well, aren't you a great deal of help? Cheshire. When I want to be. Cheshire disappears. 3. Cheshire Cat is summoned and appears. Alice. This area has been completely blown apart and destroyed. How can we expect to find anything of use here? Cheshire Cat. Just because something is broken doesn't always mean it's useless, Alice. Sometimes there is an unseen beauty and utility that lies underneath the fractures. Alice. Poetic. I suppose there might still be some potential in us all. Cheshire. In your case, I wouldn't count on it just yet. 4. Cheshire Cat is summoned and appears. Alice. Blasted cat, we could have used your help back there. Too busy licking yourself? Cheshire Cat. Speaking of blasted, the road ahead is far more blasted than most. The damage warrants caution. The path is perilous and the plunges are bottomless. Send the rabbit first. Alice. Well, why don't you go first instead? Prove your worth as a guide. Cheshire Cat. As you put it so eloquently, I believe I'll be too busy licking myself. We play as Alice overcomes another series of battles, puzzles, and platforming challenges, sometimes guided by the Cheshire Cat and other times following her rabbit. After a few wrong twists and turns, Alice will realize she is lost. A cutscene plays despite following guidance. Alice's efforts are in vain. Alice. I was following you and I am still hopelessly lost. Cheshire Cat. True, but perhaps it isn't others who should always guide your way. Alice. I'm always being told where to go, what to do. Perhaps I should listen to myself once in a while. Cheshire Cat. Wise words, Alice. Let's see if you're indeed ready to pay attention to your inner voice and follow its true course. It might be worth listening to from time to time. Chapter end. Level 3, Act 1, The Chaosma. Bargaining Realm to Hatter's Domain. Alice's appearance. Alchemy dress. Alice is a bubbling pot of curiosity, hope, rage, sorrow, and loss. When one ingredient overflows, another is tempered or eradicated in a constantly changing stream of consciousness. Her mind and memory is not yet stable, but she's manifested the perfect attire in which to get her hands dirty. There's hard work still to be done. Level 3, Act 1, Cheshire Cat's Lair, Bargaining Realm, Twisted Words and Twisted Paths. Objective. A guide can show you the way, if he chooses to. Soft gated area. Explore the Cheshire Cat's lair. The scene morphs and warps to the foreboding warped scenery of the Cheshire Cat's lair, a complex and environmentally distant distinct level design, focused on spatial navigation puzzles, astrological symbols, and manifests of star signs dance in the skies above Alice. We play until Alice is met with a seemingly impossible and impassable obstacle blocking her way. Alice cannot move forward. Solving a puzzle in face of the obstacle, the pieces fit together from a disconnected mess, forming the shape of a star with 4 points. Inner compass, find your way, guided by the stars. Secrets found in the light and dark. Hard-gated area. Solve the astrology puzzle, unlock the inner compass. We play as the obstacle lowers, leading Alice to a swirling gyroscope compass surrounded by stars. As Alice reaches out her hand to hold the compass, previously unseen hints are drawn on the environment around Alice. While she looks around clasping it, whispers are heard. Arrows fade into view and crudely sketched etchings. Arcane astrological symbols and ghostly riddled wayfinding markers appear in the environment. This ability is key to finding secrets and hidden pathways. By using it, a new hidden path is revealed. The impassable now becomes passable. From hundreds of doors, the right one is revealed. The area serves as a tutorial for this new ability. Alice continues to follow the whispers of her inner compass. This way, that way, successfully navigating the remainder of the area. The compass is golden and points true. Holding it within her hands and revealing that following others is not always the correct way to solve her problems, Alice now instead chooses to focus within and follow her own path. She must trust herself. The Cheshire remarks, "Well, it looks like you're starting to listen to the voice that really matters. Learning a thing or two, are we, Alice?" Alice, "Seemingly always, but something tells me there's still more to learn." Cheshire Cat, "It does pay to keep an open mind, but not so open your brain falls out. Speaking of brains, the Hatter awaits you." We play as Alice continues to follow her new compass and guidance. Starting at the compass's face, the device clicks and whirs, forming a massive top hat, covered in arcane symbols, the mark of the Hatter. The broken level design slots into place around Alice, and her way is now much simpler and easier to walk. Alice successfully navigates from out of the Cheshire lair, landing back into the final parts of the chiasma. Alice continues onward, following the point of the compass. As the shadow of Hatter's laboratory looms over Alice, the concentration of mechanical defenses becomes increasingly dense. We play as Alice fights forward under the shadows of steam-powered towers and gigantic bronze teapots on the outskirts of Hatter's domain. Here, Alice will face an onslaught of bizarre machines and steam-powered teapot cannons. Gears, rotors, tea and scrap metal fly as Alice rages into the fight, as they repeatedly attempt to carry her away. Finally, as Alice approaches the massive doorway to the laboratory, a trap is engaged. A cutscene plays as a giant clockwork hand engulfs Alice, trapping and immobilizing her. Trap doors open, and an army of scuttling teapots hoist Alice up. Skittering away on top of a sea of walking teapots, the horde of machines rush Alice and her rabbit through the halls of Hatter's laboratory. A blur of motion and clattering metal, Cheshire Cat is left behind. He offers no aid as his silhouette simply washes watches from a safe distance. With a flick of his tail, he disappears. A series of rapid twists and turns atop the machines within the bronze halls, and Alice is dropped unceremoniously to the ground. Now, unrestrained, Alice stands to her feet as the machines obediently tinker aside. Alice looks up. She finds herself face to face with the Hatter. Eye-pots. Hatter's machinations. A new enemy variety. Stealth, ranged, melee, repair. Movement and attack notes. Most eye-pots will be disguised as regular porcelain littered amongst the surrounds. They open their eyes and spring to life once Alice is within reach. Their mechanized legs can do massive damage up close, and their spouts can shoot scalding hot tea from great distances. Level 3, Act 3, Hatter's Workshop, Bargaining Realm. Mad Machinations and Revelations. Alice Asylum Original Audio, Mad Machination, arranged by Alex Crowley. An establishing cutscene plays as Alice is surrounded by matches. She jumps back and readies her blade. The Hatter is impatient. He stares back at Alice behind a complex magnifying glass apparatus. With Alice on knife edge, Hatter simply nods and resumes his tinkering on a workbench behind him. His back is turned. A curious exchange takes place. The Hatter. Oh, please, put it away, Alice. Here again? Can't you see I'm busy? Alice lowers her blade, confused. Alice. And here I was expecting a fight. The Hatter. If that were the case, those words might as well be your eulogy. Our interests are more aligned than you'd think, Alice. I already know what you're here for. I apologize. I apologize. These machines, though automated, lack a certain finesse. The teapot cannons on the edge of the room sheepishly recoil at Hatter's words. Their forlorn single eye stare at the floor. The Hatter. These ones defend me, but not against you. They've been trying to bring you here. You've already destroyed your fair share of my workforce, but I know you still seek answers, and you will fight so blindly and so desperately to find them. So, ask. Alice. Why should I trust you? The Hatter. Those who say they should be trusted must never be. Trust can only be earned, Alice. Afford me that chance and see for yourself. If you really want to drive that blade into my back, you only need to do so. I do not fear death. Not in this place. Alice ponders this for a moment. She sheathes her blade. Another moment passes as she eyes the Hatter curiously. Alice. Very well then. A chance it is. Manipulators. The machines that kept me imprisoned. Tell me about them. The Hatter. Yes, manipulators. Automatons, perfect replicas. They are everywhere. How do you know you're not one? You won't. My perfect invention, but the Queen controls them. Alice. That's impossible, Hatter. The Queen is dead. She was a machination herself. The Hatter. Really? Is that so? Well, if you're so certain, you have nothing left to fear from her. Fear pushes us forward, Alice, past the point of disaster and onto collision with calamity. We have no choice when we face it, only that we must be up to the task when it hits. Sure as night follows day, disaster follows you. It hunts you. It looms on the horizon of your mind and threatens us all. Hatter stops his tinkering and steadies his posture. He looks Alice in the eyes. The reasons are simple, Alice. Listen carefully. The artificers of or in that circus were designed to keep you busy, occupied, imprisoned, distracted. They returned you to where you needed to be, time and time again. Every time you escaped, you were placed back there. You have tried many times, and you have returned to the circus with every attempt. Alice, I don't remember any of it. The Hatter. The cost of forgetting is high. You might have heard that before, but this time, this really is all for your own good, my dear. Otherwise, your curiosity would undo us all. Until perhaps you were ready for what you needed to face, but you never have been. You've failed every time. Alice, what? What must I be ready for? What have I failed? The Hatter. Well, that all depends where and when and which attempt. Too many to list. You're both equal parts hope and threat here. Which one will you turn out to be still remains uncertain. Hatter's gaze narrows, piecing Alice together as if she were a dangerous puzzle. Alice continues. There is someone following me, hunting me, pulling unseen strings. Everywhere she goes, there is death, destruction. Everywhere I go, the shadow follows. I haven't found a way to even challenge her. I don't know if I can, or if I even should. I want to escape this place, Hatter. I want to escape and go home. The Hatter. Escape? Go home? Hatter scoffs. The only means to do so was lost long ago. Alice leans down and picks up her rabbit companion. Alice, you mean this? This device inside him? It fought off her corruption. It saved him. The device, it's yours? What is it? Hatter examines the rabbit like a lab specimen as the tiny mute wiggles around soundlessly in his grip. Hatter smiles. The Hatter. Indeed, Alice, there is always a way forward, if you have the heart, and some other required pieces to see and control the path. We still have a chance to get you home. Hatter pulls a lever and his workshop's walls lift back to reveal an elaborate mechanical stage performance. Puppets representing Alice, the Shadow, the Queen, and the circus loop on stifled rigs and chains. Riding in teacups, Hatter explains the story, his arms wildly thrashing about as a automated story scene rolls past. He, Alice, and the rabbit ride along together. Hatter speaks. At the behest of the Queen, I was ordered to create the machines that kept you in the circus. A cruel game, and one I didn't want to play. But the ruler had leverage on me. You aren't the only victim of being held against your will here, Alice. My very mind was at stake, and she held it cruelly in her hands. A scene of the Queen threatening the Hatter with destroying his mind plays. Important plot points. The Hatter. The circus was made by the Queen. She is order, rules, restraint, law. My genius was forced to build the actors that riddled your stages, that that riddled your stages with lies. But these were lies that were meant to protect you for as long as they could. We kept you as far away from any chaos as possible. Everything was scripted, planned, and to keep your damned curiosity sated. But no matter what we did, what elaborate act we created, your curiosity always led you astray. As you are now, as we predicted, you cannot defeat your other half. She is consuming this place in chaos and darkness. She is powerful. But I too experimented with chaos, using prima materia, the base of all creation. Unstable as they were, my experiments with darkness yielded powerfully chaotic results. In the face of your constant failures, I was poised to build a new catalyst against chaos, built from the very fragments chaos fears. What I built was capable of doing what must be done. It can get you home. But studying chaos, it has a way of being chaotic. My failed experiments resulted in an unexpected disaster. Artificial chaos is simply no match for the real thing, and it's now here. And we are unprepared. Discombobulated, unstable, uncontrolled, true chaos saw my home and work destroyed. The prima materia lost, and the essential complete fragments of the puzzle scattered around this land is in unknowing trajectories. We recovered only one piece. Hatter motions to the heart, tapping to the chest of Alice's tiny rabbit with a teapot cane. The Hatter. And we used it in a powerful sentinel to watch over you. This is all for you, Alice. This part of you must be protected. Important plot points too. Prima materia, XP pickup concepts. The Hatter. The moon carried the heart. It can withstand chaos. The eyes can focus, dilute, and channel chaos. The brain can control chaos. The eyes and the brain still remain lost, but if we find them, we might still have a chance to stand against the chaos of the shadow and get you home. Find the lost fragments, Alice. Bring me more prima materia, and I will continue my work. Hatter finishes his grand performance and turns to Alice. They both look at a dark, twisted grandfather clock. Tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock. It is slightly corrupted by chaos and acts as a gauge of how much time left Alice has to collect the required fragments. The Hatter. Certainly no time to waste, my dear. Chaos moves fast, but there is always time for tea. So, take it with you. Hatter gives Alice a wild invention, teacup launcher, that fires mortar slug rounds of boiling hot tea. A spluttering mechanical steam-powered beast of a weapon. It can also grind enemies to pulp with the broken pieces of chipped porcelain at close range. Hatter's table setter acquired. Extreme close range bursts and AoE ranged combat weapon. The Hatter. Oh, and not to put a rush on things, but by these calculations, if you are unable to collect the heart and the brain within 4 moons, then Wonderland will be consumed by the chaos, and all will be lost. But don't think about that. I'm sure you'll do fine. Hatter shoves Alice out the door and slams it closed. A second after it shuts, the door quickly reopens and Alice's rabbit is hurled through the doorway after her. Spinning soundlessly, his tiny body thuds gently on the floor. Alice and her rabbit dust themselves off and she turns to her tiny companion. Alice, I've had more graceful exits, I suppose. It's getting rather dark around here. I believe we need something to help us see clearer. The rabbit nods. The inner compass points the way to Alice's next stop. A click and a whir. The compass face morphs and resembles an eye. We play as Alice returns to the Hall of Doors. After a short while of hops, steps, and jumps, we find where the appropriate door is open and waiting. At Alice's feet. It's a tiny door only a mouse could fit through, but approaching it causes Alice to shrink rapidly to the necessary size. She steps through the door and travels to her next destination. As the door begins to close behind her, a black stream of wafting shadow follows Alice and her rabbit into the tiny door. Chapter end. Level 3, Act 3, Hatter's Workshop. Bargaining Realm, Mad Machinations and Revelations. Expanded Weapon Information. Hatter's Table Setter. Extreme Close Range, Burst and AoE Ranged Combat Weapon. Tea is served. Weapon Lore. A truly odd invention created by the host of the wildest tea parties. A unique mid-ranged and slower firing crowd control weapon for use when you want to cause indiscriminate damage on a larger crowd of enemies. The chainsaw secondary firing mode is high risk. Alice must be right next to her enemy to initiate the attack, and it only applies to one enemy. If she is attacked while using bitter no sugar, the attack will end and be wasted. Weapon quirk, too hot to sip. Weapon possesses a much higher chance of flinching enemies compared to other weapons on impact and AoE damage cause. Unlockable quirk, more tea. AoE tea explosives are larger and now have the chance to be corrosive. Sustained hits with Table Setter have a stacking chance to apply the corrosive damage over time affect to enemies. If an enemy is killed by the corrosion, there is a chance it will pass onto another close by enemy. Signature attack, set the table. After a short wind-up, the table setter will lob a steady stream of teacups and saucers filled with boiling tea at enemies. The porcelain breaks on impact. The shrapnel and boiling tea AoE has a chance of flinching enemies. The AoE splat will also damage Alice if she too close to the impacts. Perfect crowd control for times when any target will do. Attack resource, tea canister. Alternate attack, bitter no sugar. Expending all available resource, the table setter will crunch all its ammo of porcelain cups and saucers into jagged broken shards. Kicking into high gear, the table setter becomes an extreme close range grinder chainsaw. The attack is high damage burst dips on a single high priority targets. Once the weapon's damage cycle completes, it will be useless until resources replenished. Attack resource, tea canisters. Hatter's table setter upgrade design, notes and concepts. Set the table, set the table, set the table, bitter no sugar. Level 4, Act 1, Abyssal Station, Depression Realm. Entrance to the Mines of Memory. Objective, locate the missing fragments. Eyes. Soft gated area. Navigate Abyssal Station. We're all scarred, blind here. Alice steps from the Hall of Doors into Abyssal Station. Before her eyes is darkness in all directions. There are specks of light flickering in the distance. Are they fires? Eyes? Faint voices whispering something about the man in the moon? Like an explosion, the infernal train screams past Alice, lighting the scene around her. A morbid subway station made of bits of dollhouses and decorated with a full collection of broken doll parts and toys. Alice says to her rabbit, "Whose horrid memories are these? These are certainly not mine. Perhaps not yet." The station window looks out on dirt, dust, ash, and filth. Arms and legs and heads of dolls are buried in layers behind the glass. The sign overhead reads, Looking Glass Railway, Abyssal Station. The March Hare. Welcome back to the Abyss, Alice. So glad to see you again. Behind one of the windows sits March Hare, screaming into a microphone, waving excitedly at Alice. His eyes are crudely stitched shut. March Hare and Dormouse are the foremen and operators in charge of this area. They throw a series of obstacles at Alice to thwart her progress and block her escape. They blame Alice for their blindness. Dormouse, loudspeaker variant concept and character design. Hard-gated area. Avoid Dormouse's traps. Follow the compass to safety. We play as Alice navigates the scene, heading towards the direction indicated by her inner compass to locate the eyes. There are several exits from the station, all leading through roughly cut holes in the walls of the station. These become dirt passages descending into a vertical cave-like structure. Alice enters a termite mining colony buried beneath the memory tree of Alice's mind. Alcoves and chambers filled with fungi and mushrooms dug out of the rotting material of Alice's memories. Giant termite drones fly through the air overhead, carrying bundles of dirt to and fro. Mechanical conveyor belts and rusted hulks of mining machinery whir and grind throughout the scene. Here, fragments of Alice's past are half revealed in a vertical catacomb of detritus. This is where memories go to be recycled into the fertilizer that feeds imagination. Every chamber in the colony can be explored in any direction, but the colony cannot be escaped until a certain sequence of events is completed. Alice's objectives: uncover the central meaning of the memory scenes contained in the chambers and release it from the colony. This is accomplished via exploration and a series of visual puzzles involving a pattern matching, colors, and optical illusions. As she explores, Alice discovers a mixture of happier, earlier memories, which are neglected, broken, lost, or misplaced. When Alice allows these memories to be processed, her barred progress throughout the mines is allowed. As Alice explores the mines of memory, she will begin to encounter broken, wrecked, and burnt machinery. The further she goes, Alice will encounter pulsating dark veins of ore. Shadow wisps from them. These dark trails lead Alice to memories that are unfamiliar to her, wreathed in broken, amorphous darkness. These are the memories of the shadow. Veins of pulsating darkness beat, bleed, and echo from the memories, as if something is being drained or siphoned from them. Onyx and obsidian ore jaggedly protrude from the cave walls around the memories. The dark ore forms spiraling symbols and arcane runic shapes. Whispers hypnotically draw Alice to enter these nightmarish memories. All other sounds fade as Alice approaches, as her tiny plush rabbit desperately pulls at her to stop from entering. Alice cannot withstand the siren call. Chapter end. Level 4, Act 2. Echoes of Darkness. Depression Realm. A Truth in Your Suffering. Alice Asylum. Original audio. Needles and Thread, arranged by Alex Crowley. Upon entering the first dark memory, Bumby and Radcliffe take center stage. Needles and Thread. Play music via YouTube. Each of these scenes is contained within a room of warped dimensions. See non-Euclidean geometry game demos. So that a hallucinatory experience of crossing through these large and dense scenes takes place within a relatively short time and space. Each scene is separated by a section of normal geometry and materials, allowing Alice a moment to reflect on the previous scene and to look around at the structure of the space where these scenes are contained. The shadow does not want these memories to be processed because once processed, they form the basis for growth beyond the trauma. She uses the space as a gallery of pain and draws her power from it. Hard-gated area. Deeper into the darkness. Navigate the memories of the shadow. We play as Alice follows ghostly visions and memories of the shadow. Unlike the memories she has seen prior, these memories of Bumby and Radcliffe are bathed in darkness. The dark actors' movements are jittery, broken, and erratic. Their limbs are off proportion. Both men have no eyes, only deep black recesses where their pupils should be. Their voices pierce the air, ranging from hushed whispers to gasping roars. Flashes of the night. No. As Alice moves through the environment, she overhears conversations critical to her quest. Flashes of the night Alice was taken to the hospital. Scale is distorted to create a sense of vertigo, smallness, and distance. Interactive cutscenes and playable environments reveal giant beds, warped hospital rooms, giant scalpels. Her family, relatives, are tiny and far away in the sky, looking down on her among lots of other giant faces. Massive pill bottles, gauze for clouds, trolleys, dead bodies under covers. What did Alice fear most about this period? These scenes. The lack of family. Not knowing where she was. Feeling lost and alone. Feeling small. These are dreadful memories. Again, Bumby and Radcliffe take center stage, saying, "Insanity is the best option." Radcliffe continues the conversation. Wilton J. Radcliffe. Indeed, no time for sloppiness, Angus. Handle your vices and keep the services you offer our clients intact. With the girl as my ward, her estate is mine. Feed the supply, contain her mind, I'll handle the rest. As they both turn to see her, Alice is pulled violently from the memory, and she arrives in another. Her head spins. We play as Alice again. We play as we again follow another apparition of Alice, as she has an outer body experience. Witnessing the shadow's memory, she follows herself in flashes of the asylum. Alice bound to a stretcher, thrashing as she's rolled through the entrance. Nurses and doctors whispering and staring as she's wheeled through the corridors filled with the shouts and screams of insanity. Alice hears a voice. It is her own, but it is warped, breathless, and desperate. The shadow with anguish. At that time, you were already acting as my guardian. Having me committed to the asylum was easy. Who would believe you? The family lawyer and the doctor? Or the raving mad child everyone now believed had burned her family to death? We play as Alice walks the corridors of Rutledge Asylum. Everywhere are signs of neglect, decay, madness, and cruelty. Alice. This is not a place of curing insanity. It's a prison designed to drive one mad. The path leads past various rooms and corridors where we see variations on Alice's routine in the asylum. Putrid mealtimes, bouts of uncontrolled rage, cruel interactions with doctors, nurses, and psychologists. Playing with the other insane children. A final room where Alice is bound to a bed, staring, catatonic, clutching her rabbit. Her head is bald, and she is drooling. Heavily medicated, her eyes rolled back into her skull. The shadow, broken pieces form concept 4. The broken voice continues, at times sounding on the verge of breaking down. The shadow with deep sorrow. The days passed into months, the months into years, and many of those years were spent in a state far removed from reality. That must have made you feel at ease. No one believes in sane children and their make-believe. Flashes of Alice's drawings, sketches on paper, scratched into the walls of her cell, carved into the flesh of her arms. Our first glimpse of Wonderland and its inhabitants. Alice. But in my make-believe was your undoing. Suddenly, the shadow enters the cell, spawning from the darkness of the walls. Enraged, the shadow shudders spasmodically. She immediately takes over the entire scene, engulfing the area in thick black smoke, brimming with anger and fury at the intrusion of Alice. The shadow. What are you doing, little girl? This place is mine. Get out. Alice. These are your memories? Why relive these horrible experiences? The shadow. We all must eat to survive. Dark pulsing onyx ore stems from the dark memory and transfers its mass into the cracks and swirls on the shadow's arms. These horrible memories give her strength. Staring into the eyes of Alice, the shadow continues. The shadow. Perhaps it's time for you to taste some of my favorite horrors. The shadow places a clawed hand on Alice, and Alice is again suddenly pulled deeper into another dark memory. The architecture around her sways drunkenly. Sounds warp and distort as Alice reels in her own darkness. Scenes of Bumby in the Houndstitch home for wayward children play out. He is cross-examining and talking to Alice in a counseling session. Dr. Angus Bumby. The cost of forgetting is high, Alice. Insane children dolls now wander around Alice in a deranged circle. They sing and dance. Some dolls are half-dressed or have no clothing. Others have a numbered cards nailed into them and are missing parts. They all bleed. Radcliffe is seen counting the insane children on a bone abacus as they are whisked away by rotten puppet hands. Radcliffe's hands are soaked in blood as he greedily pockets large wads of filthy, greasy, and oily money with a multitude of gangling limbs. A dark, ruinous oil drips from Alice's eyes and from her mouth. She cannot speak. No one can hear her as she gurgles softly. She begins to drown and spasm. The infernal train rockets past the window and breaks through the wall, and the hellish scene is destroyed. Bumby's and Radcliffe's laugh can be heard as Alice plummets deeper and deeper into darkness. Nightmare vision. Dr. Bumby concept, nightmare vision, Radcliffe concept. We play as Alice lands face first into the dust. Alice spits a wad of blood onto splintered floorboards. She is now in a dress made of odd mismatched fabrics. Her rabbit is nowhere to be seen. She is alone here. All is silent, bar the rusty clink of an overhead chain. Alice looks up to see skewered dolls impaled on hooks and nails swaying back and forth along a conveyor. Scissors, doll parts, thread and needles litter the area. Movement can be seen in the pitch black ahead. Alice gets to her feet. A monstrous apparition of Bumby lurches forward from the shadows. It carries a book bound in pale skin and flesh. In its horrible hands, The pages turn and flutter as he speaks. Dr. Angus Bumby, the doll maker. Hush now, Alice. You've told your tale. It's time to listen to something new. I was once like you, born in chaos, an orphan of sorts. Mummy was mad, insane, really. Laudanum, hysteria, carnal urges. Pa, a taxidermist, obsessed with restoring life to the dead. His mistake? The dead can only rot, like Mummy rotted. But the living can be made clean. Dolls are clean. That's the trick, girl. The moonbeam magic. Start from within and make everything clean. Clean and hollow. Our minds, that is where the cleansing must occur. You're an excellent example, spattered in blood and wearing chaos like a badge of honor. But you know nothing of true chaos. If you did, you'd do as I've done, and dedicate your life to its complete eradication. That blade you ram through your enemies, an instrument of filth and corruption. It does not sterilize. Quite the opposite. It spreads filth and horror from whatever it touches, just like Pa. That's your mistake too. Do you really think you killed me? The taxidermist might agree, but we're beyond all that. No, Alice. We're in the realm of Mr. Dreamman. Sing with me, Alice. The train is coming with its shiny cars, with comfy seats and wheels of stars. So hush, my little ones, have no fear. The man in the moon is the engineer. As he sings, Bumby's hands sway hypnotically. Tied to a swinging thread, he produces a bloody and oddly shaped pocket watch. It does not tick. It is frozen in time. Alice's eyes widen as she looks on in horror. Trapped within the glass of the watch, screaming to get out, is Lizzie. Alice's sister is terrified as she bangs her fists on the glass trying to escape. Lizzie screams. The doll maker. The past must be paid for, Alice. She is mine, forever in time, and there's nothing you can do to change it. Her fate is sealed, and it's all your fault. Bumby's voice turns to a guttural roar as a boss battle begins. We play as Alice will need to survive an onslaught of violent attacks. He clutches the clock containing Alice's sister and uses it to attack Alice at times. He never lets it go. Alice must dodge his blows and strike his weak points in order to endure a frenzied but short boss fight. Level 4, Act 2, Echoes of Darkness, the doll maker. Needles and thread, pulling strings. Movements and attack notes. Lurching forward in the darkness, the memory of the doll maker predominantly attacks with lucid and creepy hand movements. Occasionally, the warped apparition of Bumby will cruelly attack with the pocket watch in his possession, violently hurling it at Alice. Hard gated area, combat section, boss battle. Defeat the doll maker. Once enough damage has been done to the memory of Bumby, he will laugh and lurch forward. His open mouth will consume Alice. As Alice holds her hands up to shield herself, once consumed, she will find herself in a London train station. Tiptoeing forward, we play as Alice will turn a corner and come face to face with the memory of Angus Bumby. He smiles a knowing smile as he looks at his pocket watch. AMR's ending scene and original dialogue will play out. Alice Madness Returns ending scene and original dialogue will play out and result in Alice pushing Bumby in front of a moving train, killing him. From this moment, a cutscene plays. From the instant Bumby is killed, the scene freezes, and the walls of the train station crack like glass. We zoom into the darkness of Alice's pupils, and in her eyes, a snow globe free falls in the darkness and cracks onto the floor. A wisp of shadow seeps into the glass sphere. This is the moment the chaos invaded the snow globe. Chapter end. Elizabeth in Bumby's pocket watch, trapped in time. Level 4, Act 2, Echoes of Darkness, Depression Realm. A Truth in Your Darkness. Alice's appearance, Sorrow Dress. As Alice's darkness and history is uncovered, her mind and memories do not remain unscathed. Navigating her own sorrow takes a toll. Where a mind was once guided by hope and bright lies, the realities of evil begin to cast shadows in Alice's psyche, which in turn project to her appearance. Story intermission, The Slumber. Fate Slumber Encounter number 5. Objective: find and talk with Catepillar once again. An establishing cutscene plays while Alice gasps as she arrives in the slumber realm. Breathless, Alice looks down at her feet to see a snow globe broken and shattered at her feet. Catepillar watches solemnly and silently. As sad realization dawns in Alice, she speaks. Alice: my shadow killed my family's murderer. The death of my family was only the beginning. I was spared her pain. Catepillar: you were also spared her experience. The monster she killed deserved his fate, but in killing him, she sealed her own. His darkness was transferred to her and now lives on through the shadow. It will consume her and you. Alice: can't she be stopped? Catepillar: to stop her is to kill her. But she has a purpose. She brought you this far and kept you safe, sealed away and repressed under the waves of her torment. You never saw or experienced what she did until now. Alice: her memories are horrible. Catepillar: you see what has made her, what has hurt her. Now it's your turn to keep her safe. She is blinded by her suffering, Alice. Where her rage once severed and abandoned you, you now, she now seeks to sway you in her favor. Alice, why? Why do I matter to her? Caterpillar, you are her conscience, Alice. You are her reason. You are her kindness. You have long since been forgotten, but she seeks to make you let go of what you hold. You stand in her way. This is why you have been protected until you were needed most. Alice, I'm starting to think she has a point. Her rage is justified, but these horrors. Perhaps, but do monstrous deeds inflict but do monstrous deeds inflicted warrant more monsters created? Alice thinks on this, and the scene washes away and cuts back to the exploration of the mines. Chapter end. Level 4, Act 3. Mines of Memory, Depression Realm. A past buried in shadows. Objective. Locate the missing fragment, the eyes. As Alice lands back in the mines, she is reunited with her rabbit. Surveying the scene outside of the Shadow's memories, Alice locates a rusted teapot cannon embedded and protruding from the ore. Taking the weapon, the teapot cannon is an AoE long-range launcher, capable of firing massive globs of boiling pressurized tea at a distance. The secondary fire allows Alice to pour boiling hot tea on the ground as she walks. These puddles bubble and burn her enemies in a flower trap until the tea cools, and it dissipates after time has passed. The surrounding space and scenes are home to enemies of broken dolls and hybrid insects, and obstacles of logic and spatial puzzles. The overall theme of the area outside of the memory scenes is a dangerous old mine. This creates gating and resistance as Alice moves through the area. As Alice journeys through the mines, she will be guided by her inner compass and her rabbit to find the eyes. This is a dark place where it is literally difficult to see. This realm is controlled by March Hare and Dormouse, both of whom relentlessly taunt and blame Alice for their inability to see. New weapon, teapot cannon acquired. Ranged AoE explosion and floor trap combat weapon. Boil and bubble, burnt flesh and rubble. Plaything crawlers. Movement and attack notes. Playthings burrow and giggle beneath the soil of the mines, screeching as they arise. These abominations attack with clumsy abandon and wild aggression. Powerful pincers can incapacitate Alice, and their unbalanced swipes from their mismatched limbs can be deadly. They pack a punch, but can be dispatched quickly. Hard-gated area. Restore the broken minds, process memories and past traumas. Dormouse and March Hare have done a terrible job of maintaining the mines. Things are clogged and broken. The mines are stalled and do not process any memories. Memories are left behind and hidden to feed the shadow. Alice will restore the machinery and allow it to process memories, thereby restoring health and function to the mines. Having overcome these surrounding obstacles, Alice confronts Dormouse and March Hare at the top of the mines. Because they are blind, they've used the eyes as a means to see Alice through a series of mechanical lenses scattered around the mines. As Alice progresses through the mines, she knocks out these lenses until the mouse and hare can no longer see. A boss battle takes place at the top of the mine, directly underneath the roots of the memory tree. A large chamber filled with lenses, dark corridors, memory debris, and shifting floors on a ringed platform. Alice engages mouse and hare. Dormouse. Here they scream, Dormouse. Old memories can still hurt you, missy. We'll make sure of it. From one of these memories emerges a massive steam T-powered mecha, formerly from a memory of a previous visit to Hatter's domain. A wild boss fight ensues under the maw of the memory tree. Alice combats the mecha and the two rodents, eventually defeating them. As they are recycled, the mecha and the Dormouse and March Hare are both consumed by the maw under the memory tree. Level 4, Mines of Memory, Mechanical Memory. Mad Machinations from the Past, Round 2. This battle takes place on a revolving platform. Movement and attack notes. Emerging from the ruins of Alice's past, this mechanical memory is a dire threat finally given time to shine. Attacking with a massive drill, boiling tea, and powerful open palm slams, the destructive bronze beast is piloted by Dormouse and March Hare. As Alice battles the march, dodging environmental hazards, as Alice battles the mech, dodging environmental hazards will play a key role in Alice's survival. Alice will have to use the destroyed, falling environment and wanton destruction caused by the machine to gain the advantage in this fight. Hard-gated area, combat section, boss battle. Smash the mechanical memory. Plaything walkers, new enemy variants. Alice places her hands on the eyes, claiming her prize. And heading for the exit. Before an escape, she is pulled up into the memory recycling system, an ethereal and glimmering abundance of massive, swaying tree rots, and enters into a surreal encounter with Catepillar. Chapter End. Movement and attack notes. Faster and deadlier plaything variants. These bipedal monstrosities erupt from the soil, crying, screaming, or laughing. Once Alice is in their sights, they will engage and hunt her with every intent of replacing their mismatched limbs with some of Alice's. Level 4.3, Mines of Memory, Depression Realm, a past buried in shadows. New weapon acquired. Expanded weapon information, teapot cannon, ranged AoE, explosion, and floor trap. Heavy combat weapon. Weapon lore. A heavy rusted memory brought back to life for another hot serving. A high power, high risk / high reward weapon that can be equally devastating or catastrophic in combat for the player depending on the wielder's usage and strategy employed. The equivalent of Alice's rockets or grenade launcher. High impact, high damage, explosive splash damage can be tactical with well-considered usage. Weapon quirk. Overflowing pot. Fully charged projectiles leave a boiling trail behind them, causing damage over time to any enemy or Alice if they step within the trails after the weapon is fired. Unlockable quirk. Taking time for tea. While aiming or charging this weapon, Alice's movement speed is reduced. Unlocking this quirk significantly reduces the debuff on Alice's movement speed while aiming and charging. Alice also takes less damage from AoE explosion damage and from stepping in set boiling tea traps. 1. Ranged. Signature attack. Tea is served. Charging the teapot cannon steams the weapon, then launches a large boiling glob of tea into the distance. Longer charges equal longer distance. A full charge has no distance drop, firing in a straight line. Lower charges arc the trajectory. Projectiles can travel far and deal incredible damage if they strike true. Impacts create a large AoE explosion of boiling tea that can also boil Alice if she's too close. Attack resource, tea canister. 2. Utility. Alternate attack. Mine the spill. The teapot cannon's secondary fire sees Alice steadily pour out the boiling tea from the teapot as she moves, just ahead of her, creating boiling puddle tea traps around the playing field. If any enemy walks into the puddles, they will sustain heavy burning damage over the time or will avoid the traps, creating crowd control and zoning options in combat. Alice is also able to be damaged by the traps she lays, so care is required when using them. Attack resource, tea canister. Range grenade launch shot, charged arc trajectory and distance. Rocket launcher shot, fully charged straight trajectory. The slumber, transformation, slumber encounter. Objective, investigate the shadows of what was and what is yet to come. Another encounter with Catepillar where the theme is the power of transformation. As Alice explores the scene, Catepillar narrates, "We cannot undo what's been done, but we can take every passing moment as a chance to change course." We play as Alice follows an older memory of herself through the streets of London. The version Alice follows is the same as who pushed Bumby in front of the train. Alice witnesses the elation of her memory, having rid herself of her tormentor. Alice watches her memory as she wanders through London. Mushrooms and beautiful foliage sprout from the walls and brickwork of London. All is magic, serene and happy. Her memory is satisfied. Catepillar. The sound of his bones cracking played over and over again in her mind. The final violent expulsion of air from his lungs as he was crushed by the train. It was well deserved. Her elation and his demise quickly turned into something else, something new. As Alice floats in Wonderland, blissfully the sound dims. A whisper is heard, then many others, watching as passers-by turn to look at Alice. More and more London inhabitants stop their walking. They stare at Alice. Their mouths do not move, but she hears their thoughts. Soft gated area follows. Follow your memories. Outstretching her arm, Alice reaches out to calm the whispers inside her head. They obey, if just for a second. Then, a crash of shattering glass is heard. Bumby's laughter echoes. Caterpillar. She felt something break inside, an undeniable darkness took hold and spread. A cutscene plays as Alice's beautiful experiences turn horrid. Cracks appear in the walls, the mushrooms and magical sprouts rot, wither, and die. Alice can only gaze in wonder as dark, swirling voids appear, violently consuming the rotting foliage as darkness spreads. Alice follows her memory. The apparition recoils, holds her temples, and begins to panic. We play as day turns into night, as Alice wanders through this fresh hellscape, following after her memory. She arrives at the Houndstitch home for wayward children to find Radcliffe there, surrounded by orphans and talking to the police. A cutscene takes place upon her arrival. Arriving on the steps of Houndstitch Home for Wayward Children, we witness a memory wherein Alice is confronted by Radcliffe, with a platoon of policemen at his side. Radcliffe. That's her. She's the one, officer. Arrest her immediately. Radcliffe furiously waves his little black book in the direction of Alice's approach. The policeman continues. Policeman. Now, sir, we'll get to the facts and find the killer. You leave that to us. Radcliffe. Imbecile. She can't just be left to wander the streets. She's a killer. An insane person, certified. Only released from the asylum because I allowed it. Put her back in. As Alice steps closer, Radcliffe points a shaking finger. Radcliffe. You, stop right there. As the purveyor of this establishment and the responsible agent for the protection of these products or children, you are hereby informed of your expulsion from the home for wayward children. Do you hear that, officer? She's not to take one step inside this building. Alice breaks down crying, overcome by the murder and the reality of what she's done. In her sorrow, a whisper begins to manifest. Only Alice can hear. It is the voice of Radcliffe. He stares at Alice through a sweating, furious frown. His lip trembles, but his mouth does not move. Radcliffe internal thoughts. Angus is dead. I know you killed him, but you will never win. You will never learn the truth. I'll see to it, and you'll never lay a finger on your family's estate. Not while I live and breathe. Alice is aghast hearing these words. They are unspoken from Radcliffe, but clear in her mind. As Alice recoils at Radcliffe's thoughts, her shock is met with an echoing shatter. Like shards of mirrors tumbling into nothingness, the grim London street around Alice breaks apart. All Alice sees is Radcliffe, surrounded by fire, fury, and horrible manifestations of demons, greedily pocketing ill-gotten wealth. He smiles like a devil, his form warping and horrible, as bloody coins tumble from outstretched misshapen fingers. He laughs as the gold falls. Alice holds her temples and almost blacks out. She cannot control it. Holding steadfast, darkness wells in her eyes, and she grits her teeth. The scene rapidly rebuilds back to the dirty London street. Radcliffe, unperturbed, turns his back to her and ushers the children through the door. The cops mutter about wanting to know Alice's whereabouts while warning her not to leave the district. Police Officer 2. We'll be speaking to everyone of interest, miss. That man there thinks you should be at the top of our list. What have you got to say for yourself? What proof do you have of your innocence? Alice quietly. Proof? Simply a matter of perspective on the crimes. Her voice trails distantly as she sways, unsteady on her feet. Radcliffe blamed her. Though he didn't have the evidence, he knew it was her, just as she knew it was him. His guilt, his compliance, his mind, and her memories spoke more than his mouth ever could. Alice looks up to watch as Radcliffe closes the door. Their eyes meet for what seems like an eternity. Radcliffe blinks and his eyes dart side to side. Hers continue to darken in fury. Catepillar. Now she knew. He had been in on it all along. The shadow's hands claw out from Alice towards Radcliffe, but only we can see. Radcliffe slams the door shut. Alice, surrounded by encroaching police and wrought with rage, wrestles free from their grasp and runs down the street. The policemen yell behind her. They pursue as the scene ends. The sound of the screams snaps us back to the scene with Alice and the caterpillar. Alice. She intends to kill again. My shadow. After Bumby, she believes Radcliffe deserves to die. Catepillar. And then the transformation will be complete. Darkness always begets more darkness. What do you believe, Alice? What do you see? Alice does not have a chance to answer. As we zoom into her eyes, a teardrop forms. The slumber encounter ends as the droplet falls, dropping into a calm azure pond. Panning up, the scene cuts to a gargantuan, lush tree, its leaves bristling in the breeze within the veil of tears. The Tree of Memory, Depression Realm, Truth Blossoms. Objective: find the missing fragment, the eyes. Soft gated area. Explore the Tree of Memory. Focusing on a branch of the tree, Alice blossoms from the stem, starting as a flower and then blooming into a girl. We play as Alice continues her descent safely to the ground, jumping from flower petal to leaf to branch, and proceeds on her way. The eyes sit at the bottom of a small, calm pond, dotted amongst the foliage of the vale. Alice reaches in and retrieves the eyes from a pool of tears. Having repaired the memory tree and now able to see clearly, Alice's memories now flow and are processed properly. As the beautiful tree above Alice blossoms and blossoms, all manner of memories, happy, sad, dark, and light, are processed. Alice is racked with emotions. A flash of memories of her own and that of the shadows flow and ebb through Alice's mind. Gazing back at her reflection in the pool, she spies the reflection of the shadow staring back at her, but neither flinches. A moment of somber thought, and Alice places a finger on the reflection in the water. It points back as she breaks the water. As the ripples subside, Alice is left, looking at her own glum reflection in the water. The shadow has gone. Deep in thought, Alice spies an upright, ornate door frame nestled amongst the flowers. Opening the door, Alice heads back to the Hall of Doors. Level 4, Act 4, The Tree of Memory. Depression Realm, Truth Blossoms. Alice's appearance, chaos dress. Torn in different directions, Alice's doubt begins to turn to understanding. Beneath the waves of her torment, Alice's mind races to steady the sails and brave the coming storm. Adapting and changing, Alice's attire reflects the nature of someone becoming one with themselves, yet still with no inner peace in sight. Minds of Memory, World Lore and Design Notes. One of the most complex areas in Alice's journey, the minds of memory are inspired by the journey of trauma. One that starts blinded and in the deepest, darkest depths. Alice's trajectory is always upwards through struggle and challenges she faces in this area. Though she may literally fall from time to time, the end result is to reach a form of understanding of her situation and truth, which Alice uncovers at the very peak of the area, having overcome the obstacle in the dark. Heavy in symbolism, the below rough sketches further elaborate on the areas within the minds and how they interconnect. New item acquired. Expanded item information, the eyes. The eyes are another key item that are integral to the plot of Alice Asylum. Obtaining the eyes is symbolic of Alice's line of sight becoming clearer in understanding the darkness she faces. Pre-production design notes. The eyes, the heart, and the brain were chosen to represent key areas of the self when processing trauma. As Alice's journey continues, the pain in her heart and loss of those she loves is examined. The ability to see the truth and examine her own darkness is linked to the eyes. Processing all of this information and forming a strong understanding of her grief is symbolic of the brain. Abilities granted. Health bar increase, XP boost, prima materia. Hatter's Workshop, conceptual hub layout. Training room. Firing range, combat arena ability, test arena. Weapon range, custom combat arena, platforming, ability test and training room. A room that can be formed and reshaped, a massive machine, platforms, cogs, gears, Hatter combatants. A room that can shape shift and be destroyed, recreated instantly to become a new area or hazard room. Gallery, extra content and secrets, DLC access hub. Secrets, hidden corridor or staircase, Cheshire Cat, Alice spawn. Hidden area. Potential artwork gallery secrets, Boss Rush access cheats, DLC wardrobe, photo gallery, review DLC access area potential. Accessed by in-game unlock, secret sequence or puzzle performed in Hatter's Workshop or a gated unlock from in-game activity. Weapons range and ability. Test room can be reshaped to suit Alice's needs. Corridor A. Link between Hatter's Workshop and weapons range. Test room area. Chaos Clock. Acts as a visual gauge for time before the shadow consumes Wonderland. Hatter's location. Prima materia. Exchange and upgrades. Secret corridor. B. Link to hidden area for DLC and extra content access. Excuse me. Gallery and secret area. Secret area. Area that houses additional hidden and unlockable content. Cheshire Cat offers hints, cryptic clues, sass, and guidance can be pat. Alice's spawn point. Player loads in centrally to area upon arrival. Bookshelves and paintings. Lore and extended text for areas and enemies encountered. Corridor C. Link to Hall of Doors via Hatter Workshop. Hall of Doors. Doors lead to key areas. Can be accessed via menu direct or hub world. Snow globe. Review and revisit previous slumber encounters and relive key narrative scenes. Hard gated area. Revisit the Hall of Doors. Upgrade and XP leveling and intermission. Hatter's Workshop. Bargaining realm. TikTok. Objective. Explore Hatter's Workshop. Upgrade and master new abilities. As we play as Alice steps from the Hall of Doors and quickly makes her way to Hatter's Workshop, there she returns the second fragment piece, the eyes, and is allowed a chance to equip items, upgrade weaponry, or restock weapons and supplies. Hatter is busy tinkering away. He offers new upgrades and inventions for Alice's perusal. In exchange for pre-materia Alice has collected on her way, Hatter warns Alice of time running out to save Wonderland. The chaos clock continues to be consumed. Tick-tock. Only 3 moons remain. Prepared for the next adventure, she returns to the Hall of Doors and chapter end. Easel in test area concept used for setting hazard room parameters. Soft gated area. Explore the Vale of Tears. Level 5, Act 1. Vale of Tears, Depression Realm. We're all sad here. Objective, find the missing fragment, the brain. We play as Alice steps from the Hall of Doors into the Vale of Tears. The scene before her is a riot of dense green vegetation and towering mushrooms. Everything is illuminated by glittering shafts of moonlight piercing through the canopy. Butterflies and bees float overhead, while ants and spiders occupy the ground and leaves in the spaces between. Giant raindrops sparkle in the dense air, all of it frozen in time like a living painting. After some exploration, it is clear Alice is emotionally processing. The Cheshire Cat appears and talks with Alice. Cheshire Cat. You seem a bit wilted, Alice. Despite all your gadgets, are you still unsure which path is the right one? Alice. I'm confused, Cat. My shadow, she does horrible things, but they seem justified. Her rage and destruction, she doesn't want anything anymore, only for it to end. Cheshire Cat. Quite right. A tangled mess that requires unraveling. I believe it will be up to you whether you see it fit to challenge her or help her burn things to the ground entirely. Alice, voice trailing and distant. I'm not quite sure either is the right path. We share memories now, all of them. I need time. Be sure it is used wisely then. Time is fleeting and the only commodity that cannot be replenished. Soft gated area. Master the bubble of influence. We play as Alice navigates the scene, heading towards the direction indicated by her inner compass. Along the way, she encounters a variety of bizarre woodland creatures frozen in place who spring to life with Alice's passing. Alice carries with her a bubble of influence, which is represented as a sunlight effect related to her dress. Time resumes inside its proximity and freezes again. Once she passes, the chaos is also here, converting woodland creatures into enemies Alice must defeat. The vast majority of Alice's aggressors are chaos infected and consumed reptiles. Snakes, lizard, newts, turtles, and alligators form the ranks that attack Alice here. The chaos operates outside of frozen time, another facet that cannot be controlled. It converts frozen creatures into enemies that will always attack Alice at will. Platform puzzles form a series of obstacles to Alice's progress, designed around the unique physical environment created by the stoppage of time. In one area, Alice jumps and swims upward through the suspended water droplets, their static behavior disrupted by her passing. In another location, levers and bridges are frozen by Alice's actions and presence, then refrozen as she moves away from them. Eventually, Alice will encounter Mock Turtle is waiting on the path ahead, also frozen in time and place. As Alice draws near, he unfreezes and a cutscene begins. Mock Turtle. Oh, thank goodness you're here. My nose has been itching for what feels like 1,000 years. Alice. You again? Back to torment and bully me? I'm already getting enough trouble from other reptiles in these woods, and I'll make I'll make myself clear. There is no circus for me to return to, no lines for me to sing. My path is my own. Alice and the Mock Turtle continue their peculiar conversation amongst the bubbling brooks of the Vale of Tears. Alice eyes Mock Turtle with suspicion as they both descend into a familiar spiral of nonsense together. Mock Turtle. That's good to know. You seem very you. much more than I was me. When when you met the last me, I'm sure. But then again, I'm as much me as I can be today. Are you certain you're you? Alice. What I'm certain of, given how ridiculous you are, is I can only surmise you are indeed the real Mock Turtle and not another lie. Be useful. Tell me what has happened here. Mock Turtle. Am I? Sharp words. Good thing I'm thick of shell. It takes a lot to crack this one. Mock Turtle taps on his shell with a flipper. In regards to the environs, night fell and the sun never returned. The flow of time slowed and then everything stopped. Something is holding us all back. We must restore the natural flow of things. The Duchess might know how. She's far shrewder than I, and twice the appetite, no doubt. Alice. Very well. We'll have to pay her a visit. Judging by my horrid memories, we might have to bring something else for supper, lest we find ourselves on her menu. Chaos-infected pig corpses. We play as Alice navigates the timeless veil with Turtle in tow. He acts as a raft, assisting Alice navigate the areas and flow of water where she cannot alone. Along the way, she encounters more combat sections with chaos creatures and more physical obstacles and puzzles built around the unique behavior of time in this area. Wherever chaos is encountered, squeals of pigs are heard, and the corpses of dead pig-man hybrids are found. The pigs are torn apart, dismembered, and slain, their body parts strewn about in overt displays of ultra-violence by the chaos-summoned reptiles. As Alice floats along the perilous streams, surpassing combat arenas and platforming sections, she will eventually glimpse the shadow in the distance. Tearing a pigman apart on a tiny island, the shadow is crying as she does so, destroying blindly in her sorrow. As Alice meets the tearful gaze of the shadow, Mock Turtle panics and recoils in horror. Alice is flung from his shell, crashing her head against a rock. Alice's body ragdolls downstream through the rapids. Her head above the flow. Moments before Alice blacks out entirely, she witnesses Mock Turtle in the cruel grasp of the shadow. He blubbers and struggles hopelessly, but is quickly consumed in a tangled mass of darkness as his scream fades the sound of rushing water into the sound of rushing water. Chapter end. Okay, so we are going to leave it off here. This would be a good place for me to pick up next time. And let's head on back. So, I hope you enjoyed this reading as much as I did. Wow. A lot to get into. Obviously, this was much more, or the most story-based of all the chapters. I mean, and it's wild to me just how imaginative this truly is. And I greatly appreciate how just the level of creativity for me that American McG, and obviously this is something that you've heard me say twice before and you will continue hearing me say. I mean, it's astounding. Just nothing seems monotonous or repetitive, even when they're replaying scenes of Alice's memories, or as we saw in this reading, where they're even going back to the ending of Alice Madness Returns. It's never dull, and it's never a feeling of been there, done that. What we got was, or I should say, standouts here include Minds of Memory. That level to me was very interesting. It definitely stood out and was impressive. Not just the visuals, but that it's almost like Alice couldn't move forward because her own memories couldn't process, like within like the conveyor belt, like her own mind was trapped in this with like either reliving the same memory, or she just couldn't move forward. So I very much liked that. I very much like the asylum returning there, as well as the monsters within. What Bumby looked like, that vicious creature, and how he just looked like something of like a centaur almost. And the other guy looked I forgot what his name was, but the other Bumby's assistant or whatever, his fellow co-conspirator, looked just like a bulbous mass of a mockery of humanity almost. So it was all very well handled. And you know, I very much applaud this narrative, this tale, just because of how good it is. What else? Other standouts include, there were areas that look like the whole conveyor belt within the mines, and then the dark imagery once we returned to the what am I trying to say? The asylum. It reminded me, like the imagery reminded me very much of Edward Scissorhands. So kudos to the game for that. What else? Man, the game got pretty Silent Hill-esque with not just like the creatures, the monsters, but like how Alice is kind of split between her darker, shadowy inner child and the avatar that we are playing as. I thought that it reminded me of how Sharon in the Silent Hill movie was also kind of split in two. The doll monsters are the playthings are quite nightmarish to behold. This reading was the, how can I put it? The first time that I noticed like a bleeding effect between creatures or locales from Wonderland bleeding into like the normal world for Alice. I like how even the game referred to it as Lunderland. I thought that was pretty good. And something else that reminded me of like these items that Alice needs to collect: the heart, the brain, the eyes. I don't know. Kind of reminded me of like the things that the characters in the Wizard of Oz are after. You know, the heart and a brain for the Tin Woodsman. So all in all, just a very impressive, story-driven, monster-filled narration. I very much enjoyed it. I hope you did as well. And I hope that you will enjoy, or I should say, that you will join us next week, next Monday, at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard. That will be the narration of Chapter 4. So, until then, I've been Inkarnate, reminding you to keep it here where we reap your fear. If you're resigned to your fate, time to subscribe to your fears.
Come and play with us. Forever and ever.
So say good night to the bad guy.